Alright, so the third and final software we are going to download to finally make our laptops and computers hate us for life for spamming it with so much software is Adobe After Effects. Now, you can download the trial for this software via Adobe, and I believe it lasts for 30 days. You might want to check out their website just to be sure. So here it is, free trial, and also right here, After Effects free trial. So just like our previous protocol, this lesson will just be a very basic walkthrough and refresher. But if you want a full-blown lesson with more depth and in-depth information, you should try out my After Effects Complete Edition course I have on Udemy. For now, we are just using it for this very simplistic purpose, since this lesson will be focused on being a generalist and executing what you need to, again, get the job done. So perhaps you might have noticed by now, or maybe not, but my Adobe After Effects 2, just like Photoshop, is also the older CC 2015 version with my own customized windows and tabs. Just bear that in mind when you are following along, that you're not going to be seeing the same things that I'll be seeing, but technically all the other icons should still be the same. Okay, so I'm just going to reset my window workspace for now, at least so you can get the same view as I have. Okay, so let's begin this time with the project panel and importing things. Now, obviously, for those of you who are new to After Effects, this is where you bring in all your footage. So if I double click on this, and let's say I'm going to bring in this fossil right here. If you hit on the tilde key, which is above your tab next to your number 1 key on the keyboard, you can see more details on this image or things that you've imported in. Okay, so how do we make a composition? Well, basically we drag this over the little comp icon right here next to the 8BPC, let it go. You can see that it creates us a comp to the right of the composition viewer. Now you can have multiple composition viewers, but for now we only have one showing this composition that we've just created in the exact resolution of that image. Of course, you can always right-click, go to composition settings, and then adjust all these however you want, but for now, for the illustration purpose, I'm going to leave it alone. Speaking of the composition panel, this, as I mentioned, is composition panel or viewer. You can have multiple. You can even put them side by side. This is where you do all your cool, fancy, smanchy stuff. Now, in After Effects, you can also, looking at this bar, basically have more functionality to control the viewer and how you view things. This option is just to correct your aspect ratio. This right here, this little button, allows you to access the different channels of that particular image that you have right now. And then of course, this allows you to toggle the mask visibility, and this is just how much you want to zoom in to your image. So you have to kind of experiment around with this, but these icons that I just mentioned are just the generic ones that you might want to use occasionally. Alright, so moving on down, we have the timeline panel right here, which is very similar to what you saw in Maya, except this is a little bit more pronounced here in After Effects. And what this basically means that when you go through and scrub through your footage, you see things move or maybe not, and you can actually drag and drop multiple layers over here. Now, the hierarchy in After Effects is that number 1 is always number 1, as in they're always on top, number 2 is always after number 1, number 3, and so on and so forth. Now, going this way, we have our libraries. You need to actually log in order to do this. But if you click on Effects and Presets, this is where the magic happens. This is where you find your Harry Potter spellbook and you open it up and you say, hey, hocus pocus, lolo molo, or whatever. So, okay, so let's just give an example. Maybe like curves. Okay, I'm going to drag this on top of number 1. And you can see this new little tab or panel just popped up, and I'll explain that later. Alright, moving on up, now you can see this preview, which basically is just your RAM preview to play back things that are moving. In this case, it's a still image, so it's not going to move. And also to hear audio, and you can see right here. Now, moving on up, we have our info panel. This is actually very important, and I do like the info panel a lot. So basically, when your mouse is inside the viewer and you hover over it, not only will it tell you what's the alpha channel value, as you can see in the A, but also what the RGB channel values are. In addition, the X and Y is displayed, where 0, 0 is all the way at the end. And then you just go along this way, is increasing in X, you go along this way, is increasing in Y, so you can tell where in 2D space your mouse is at. And of course, audio, you can just do some little audio adjustments. We don't really do this in After Effects, but just so you know, and just in case you want to do it, it's over there. Okay, so moving on up, we have our toolbar. Now, this is very handy, and it's always best to use the shortcut keys. So you have the hand tool, which allows you to pan. Rotate allows you to, well, obviously rotate the image layer, not the canvas. And then other things too, like the pen tool, the brush tool, etc. You might want to play around with this. And of course, as I mentioned, this effects control tab that pops up basically will allow you to go in and adjust the individual attributes or values of your effects applied. So in this case, I had curves. If I did this, you can see I'm adjusting the image appropriately right here. Now, just in case you're not aware yet, zoom in and zoom out is basically just to, zoom in and zoom out. If you press and hold the middle mouse button and drag, you can actually pan the comp. And then of course, Control plus, Control minus allows you to zoom in and zoom out in increments. And now with that done, we always go through the last step, which is about resetting workspaces, because you might have just messed around and then got lost. So what I would do, basically there are two ways to do it in After Effects. Go to Window, Workspace, and then you can see it all right here, reset or delete, etc. You can also do this right here and change these all back to your particular workspace that you desire. So in this case, I believe I was actually set as standard. I'm going to go back to standard. I'm going to reset standard. Yes. And then voila. So that was quick, innit? Well, in the next lesson, we will finally get to doing something with After Effects, starting with 2D tracking.